Hello, and welcome to the Journeys of Folco Hornblower, the One Ring 2nd Edition Strider Mode adventure, written and narrated by me, Ryan Hewlett.
Chapter 4. As Farmer Maggot leads Folco to set Billy behind the main building of Bamfurlong, and then into the main foyer inside of his home, Folco smells the familiar scent of Old Toby. "I smell you're a connoisseur of the Old Toby as well," Folco asks inquisitively. "Not quite. I more fancy the Southern Star myself, but my guest seems to like the Toby. He's right here in the parlor, and he informed me that I should expect you to pay me a visit." And with that, Farmer Maggot leading Folco into the parlor, Folco spots none other than Bilbo Baggins sitting comfortably in a lounging chair, pipe in hand, grinning excitedly. "Well, my young lads, you've done it. You've passed the test. I was worried you might fall into ill fortune like you had when I found you on the East Road outside the Shire, but looks like you've made it here none the worse the wear, and in great time I might add. I'd half expect you to have been still drinking ale or eating some fine food in the many inns you would have passed. Tell me, did you follow the route I suggested, or did you let your feet take you into more unfamiliar roads and trails?" Bilbo, now standing pipe in hand and mouth, and his right hand resting in his pocket. Before they could continue on with their discussion, Farmer Maggot bid them to the dining area, and they all sat down for mid-afternoon tea and biscuits. Folco proceeded to tell Bilbo and Farmer Maggot his journey from Bag End to Bamfurlong, about the ghost of the 3 farthing stone, the exploding of his old pipe, showing off his new pipe with an Old Toby design inlay, and of course the rumors and tales of the Black Wolf of Woody End. With the mention of the Black Wolf, both Bilbo and Farmer Maggot tilted their heads and looked at one another, Folco giving them each an inquisitive look and a low, "What?" "Let's clean up first before we get down to business," Farmer Maggot said with a low, somewhat distressed voice, clearing the dishes, pouring another round of tea from the pot resting on the table in each other's cups. Maggot sat down and leaned back into his chair. As he spoke, he carefully packed some of the Southern Star into his pipe, lit it, took in a couple of draws. "Chickens! It is because of my chickens that I sent my letter, Master Baggins, and to be honest, I thought you would have sent more help than this young hobbit right here. When I saw that thing that night, blood in its teeth and fire in its eyes, I knew it was something beyond the ken of myself or any other folk in the East Farthing. It was a beast, I tell you, and not some hungry wolf that came up from the Dunland starving. This was a black thing, as if its fur had been burnt like kindling, with nothing natural about it, and it sent chills down my spine. No easy task, mind you, but when I heard it growl at me, we locked eyes, and I saw naught but a lust for death in its gaze. It meant to kill me more than my chickens in that coop that night, guaranteed. So I grabbed a lantern in one hand, you see, and my chopping axe in the other. If it was going to take me, I wasn't going down without a fight. Before I knew what happened, it was on me, crossing the field in a bound and pinning me to the soil, snarling and slavering." Taking in another deep draw of Southern Star, Farmer Maggot continued. "In a fit, I swung my lantern up and it shattered, pouring oil upon its muzzle. It yelped and screamed, and as the fire blazed, and it fled into the dark. The last thing I saw before it disappeared towards the brandy wine were those horrible, fiery eyes." Pausing, he sets his pipe on the bench beside him. "It's still out there. I swear I've seen it beyond the edges of Bamfurlong more than one night since then. Those eyes burning into me from the dark. And if the stirrings from Buckland, and as you say Folco Woodhall, are any hint, it is causing no end of trouble elsewhere in the Shire. Master Bilbo, sir, I was hoping that you or Folco might help me and the Buckland folk put a stop to this foul thing, making sure that it doesn't hunt anything else before it gets a taste for something more than chickens." Bilbo, nodding and puffing out some smoke. "Well, that's why I've brought Folco along. As you can see, he's quite capable to investigate, and according to him, he's a great woodsman." Bilbo, nodding over to Folco to comment. Folco, following suit, drawing and puffing smoke, opened his mouth to talk, but was quickly interrupted by Farmer Maggot. "Before you say anything, Folco, there's not much I can offer you from my pockets for reward. Besides my eternal gratitude to the safety of my chickens, and myself, I might add, you'd always have a clean bed to sleep on and a warm meal to eat." Folco, nodding to both Farmer Maggot and Bilbo. "That's a most generous offer indeed. I've been hunting game in the Chetwoods since I could barely remember, My grandfather taught me everything I knew, and he was as good as hunter and woodsman as any ranger out there. If there is a wolf to be found and taken care of, well, I'm sure I'll be able to find it." Folco, not completely sure he sold himself proper, sat back and took a long, deep draw of his pipe and slowly let out of the smoke. "Well then, my boy, that settles it. I'm glad it's you and not the others I was going to send along to Farmer Maggot. You've got some real experience already under your belt, unlike most I know around here," Bilbo grinning. "Now then, rest up and head out early in the morrow. I'll help out Farmer Maggot with getting some provisions for your hunt. Speaking of which, where best for you to start?" With that, Farmer Maggot pipes in. "The most recent word I've heard from Buckleberry is that it has somehow crossed the Brandywine and troubling the farms in Buckland and the Brandy Bucks. Probably best you make your way to the Buckleberry Ferry and cross there, unless you like to swim." Maggot, uncharacteristically letting out a small chuckle. His face returned back to the grimness he's shown for most of the conversation. "One other thing. Not sure what that Woods fellow in Woodhall has seen, but I've only ever seen or heard of this creature coming out at night. Not sure how that helps, but it's something else, at least, to think about." With that, Farmer Maggot bid them, Bilbo and Folco, to rest and relax as he attended to his chores around the farm. Supper and evening came and went, but as Folco settled in for the night into bed, a low, distant howl of a wolf could be heard, or at least that's what he thought it was. Folco rested his hand under his head and against the pillow, looking straight up at the ceiling. "What have you gotten yourself into now, Folco Hornblower?" he asked himself. With the crowing of the farm rooster, Folco rose quickly from bed. The smell of breakfast was already permeating through the house, and Folco's stomach started to rumble. Folco quickly dressed and went into the dining area. Bilbo was already seated, and Farmer Maggot was serving a spread of eggs, bacon, and crispy hash browns, all garnished with some delicious-looking mushrooms. "Well, good morning, Folco. Was the bed kind to you this past night?" Farmer Maggot asked while setting a place for Folco at the table. Sitting down and rubbing his hands, seeing the spread of food before him. "Kind, very kind. Although I did hear what I thought was a howl of a wolf in the distance. Not sure if either of you heard it as well." Farmer Maggot and Bilbo quietly nodded, both looking at each other and then at Folco. Bilbo spoke. "We were just chatting about that before you came in. We heard it as well, and something must be done for sure, lest, like Farmer Maggot suggested last evening, it garners the taste for more than just his chickens." Bilbo, looking down at his plate, forking a morsel of food, nodding his head, and took a bite. "Either way, you best leave after lunch. It'll take you most of the day to get up to Buckleberry Ferry, and by that time it should be early evening. Like I said, only seeing the beast shortly after dusk, so you can start in Buckland after you cross that river," Farmer Maggot sang as he himself sits down with a plate and setting down the pot with some tea. Not much was said following that, other than comments about the weather, the long list of markets to come that Farmer Maggot wants to attend, and other seemingly unimportant gossip of the marriage. Folco prepared for the hunt, ensuring his spear was strong, his bow and string oiled and clean, and the fletching, shaft, and tips of the arrows were in good form. Folco securely strapped his pack and other supplies to Billy, who, up until now, was quietly content at Bamfurlong, and it took Folco a little coaxing to get him to agree to come along for the hunt. "Well, Folco, looks like you're all set," Bilbo said as he came to say and see Folco preparing. "My adventuring days and hunting are long behind me, Folco. Would like to again go on a little adventure, but I think this one's a little bit too much for me." Bilbo paused, Folco noticing that he was lost in a deep memory. "Oh, yes. Well, here's to your success in hunting down this wolf. Farmer Maggot wanted you to have this. Will keep your strength up and good for a few days, just in case those Bucklanders don't feed you well enough." Bilbo laughing as he handed Folco a sack of full, fresh, picked mushrooms from Farmer Maggot's farm. "Much appreciated, and tell Farmer Maggot thank you. I hope I'm not gone too long, but I'll be back. Shouldn't be too hard. Don't expect many wolf packs troubling the Shire too much." Folco giving a sly smile, looking out toward the distant edge of the woody end. "Farewell, Folco, and we'll see you in a couple of days." Bilbo, bidding Folco a swift goodbye. Folco led Billy down the raised path of Bamfurlong onto the raised causeway leading to the main road that connects Stock to Rushy, along the western bank of the Brandywine. Unlike the rest of the Shire, as Folco could tell, most of the buildings that dot the soggy landscape, if not all of them, are stout buildings of brick and thatched roofs with no traditional smeals to be seen. Even the road itself is raised high above the adjacent farmland, seemingly to keep the path much drier than the land below. As the sun sets in the west and the evening begins, Folco sees the ferry in the distance, noticing a couple of specks of light flashing near it. The sun sets past the horizon as the shadows cast by the trees lining the sides of the causeway begin to meld into one. Folco notices the cool evening air feeling strangely still and eerily quiet. Approaching closer to the road that begins off leading to the ferry, a sense and a moment of dread washes over Folco, Billy bucking and nodding his head and fro, sensing something is afoot. Whoa, boy, whoa. Folco, stopping at the junction, his hands now clenched, his spear in one hand and his bow in the other. He calms Billy and looks around, keeping an eye out to the trees and sides of the road. Folco noticed movement, first behind a distant fence of a farm, and as he walked towards the winding road to the ferry, he also noticed movement behind a row of distant hedges, and once again behind more farmhouses. With the ferry now just a long stone's throw away, and illuminated by a set of lanterns, and starlight reflecting off the Brandywine, a sense of ease comes over Folco. Well, for a minute there I thought there would be trouble. And before Folco could finish the sentence, and out of the corner of his eye, he spotted it. A set of cold, red eyes rose from the ditch along the northwestern edge of the road. Folco wasn't sure what it was. Was it a dog? Was it a wolf? Or other strange creature from afar? With the starlight and the flickering dim light from the lamps near the ferry, Folco could notice the fur of the creature looking singed as if it burnt, and the color cold like ash. The eyes gleamed fiery as the creature prowled closer and closer, each step signaling a predatory confidence of seasoned predator. Interestingly, Folco noticed heard no growl or sound from it, not even the footfalls as it made its way closer to Folco and Billy. The beast was large, its shoulder reaching the height of even the most tallest of hobbits. Folco noticed its snarl, showing large, pearl white fangs stained pink, and then, like a flash of lightning, it charged at Folco. Folco barked out to Billy to head to the ferry, Billy trotting off in agreement. Folco, spear in one hand and bow in the other, turns to face his foe. Folco barely had enough time to react as he set his left foot forward and threw his spear at the beast, now in full charge against him. As soon as the spear left his hand, he swung his left hand, holding the bow, and pulled out and knocked an arrow and pulled it, aiming it as true as he could, given the darkened early night. The spear struck true, its metal head slicing a deep gash along the side of the charging beast, neither making a sound or slowing its charge at Folco. With no time to think, Folco released the arrow, and it flew with precision, striking the wolf-like creature deep into the vital areas of its chest. The creature let out an unnerving howl as it crumpled out and fell over, dead, 10 to 15 feet in front of Folco. Folco scarcely could believe what had happened as he stared blankly at the now still and silent body of the beast. Folco heard another sound coming from behind the creature, off into the shadows of the hedges and line of trees. Well done, my young friend. You fell that beast fast. I'm impressed. The gruff, rough voice of a hobbit Folco heard. Coming into the dim light of the shadows, Folco noticed the hobbit was none other than Bearlac of Woody Hall. Looks like you did me a favor. Been tracking this beast for a couple of days now. Guess he wasn't that tough after all. Bearlac giving a smirky grin. The name's Bearlac Bulger. Who by chance are you? Bearlac, after picking up Falco's spear off the ground and handing it to him. Folco Hornblower. Saw you at Woody's End just a couple of nights ago. You mentioned the beast, or what I think is the beast you call the Black Wolf. Folco, taking the spear, wiping off the now bloodied spearhead with a rag from his pack. Yeah, it's the Black Wolf, all right. Been troubling the Woody End and now these parts for the past couple of weeks. Glad it's finally been taken care of. Both Folco and Bearlac heard and turned towards what only could be another growl of a creature similar to the one that now lay motionless on the road. Bearlac, turning around to look in the general direction and slowly stepping back. I really don't think we should be standing much longer here. To the ferry! Falco and Barrelak quickly turned and ran to the ferry, untying it from the mooring and pulling it across the Brandywine. As they both turned and looked back, a dark, shadowy, wolf-like creature moved towards the other, dead creature, then turned to show both Falco and Barrelak menacing, red glowing eyes. Without notice, it darted and ran northward into the trees, Falco losing sight of it in the darkened cover of the cool night. The trip across the Brandywine goes without incident, as they step off the ferry onto the ramp and Falco guiding Billy off of it and onto the path. A quick and terse voice is heard from ahead of them. Turning the corner of a nearby building just ahead, Falco and Barrelak notice a bounder, lantern in one hand, and the other resting on a sheathed sword. "Don't you know you're not supposed to be using the ferry at night? Foul things are afoot these days, and the master has ordered all visitors to be escorted to Brandy Hall at once." The bounder now ushering the two hobbits to follow him promptly. Falco noticed the bounder being particularly hurried and out of sorts. Falco, following suit as they all walk northwards along one of the roads of the Buckland. "Well, we appreciate the offer, but we can definitely take care of our own. What is it that troubles this master, that you're having to escort us to Brandy Hall?" Falco, off put by the order of the Buckland watchman. The bounder stops and turns around and looks at Falco. "Look, we know how the rest of you from the Shire view us, but here in Buckland we make sure things are good and proper. And we make sure that those are not from here are good and safe. And proper too. So if that means I escort you to the Master of Buckland because he says so, by all means that's what I'll do." Sure. We're not looking for trouble. We're just here to ask some questions about the creature troubling Buckland, like it has Woodhall and folks in the Marish." Falco, quickly to chime in about his intent. The bounder again stops, turns around, and eyes both Falco and Barrelak. "So you know about the attacks? Well, it's a good thing I'm taking you to see the master. He may have some use for you after all." Not mincing further words, a short while later, Falco and Barrelak are led to a relatively large smile, and with many windows and 3 large doors with many smaller doors set along the slopes of a large hill. Lush pots full of a variety of plants, flowers, and the ground surrounding immaculately tended to. The bounder, asking Falco and Barrelak to stay at the end of the step, leading to one of the main doors, knocks on it. A few moments pass, and then the large circular door of what Falco learns later is Brandy Hall swings open, and an older, portly, balding hobbit presents himself. "Late is the hour, Braddock. What ill news do you have to tell me?" The portly hobbit peers over the shoulders of Braddock and sees Falco, Barrelak, and Billy just behind them. "Visitors! This late in the evening. Glad to see my orders are being followed." "Yes, well, you see I found these 2 hobbits crossing the Brandywine at Buckleberry Ferry, and, well, I promptly escorted them here by your order. Apparently they're here to ask questions about the creature," Braddock said. "Quick, let us not tarry outside any longer. Your journey must have been long. Braddock, lead them into the parlor, and I'll fetch you some tea and biscuit." And with that, Falco and Barrelak are led into Comfort Hall of Brandy Hall. Entering the parlor with a platter of biscuits, cups, and a pot of tea, the portly gentleman bids everyone to sit. "Well, gentlemen, the name's Gorboduc Brandybuck, and as you've probably already come to the conclusion, I'm the Master of Buckland proper." Gorboduc sits down on a large, leather-bound chair and quickly picks up his pipe that is laid on the nearby table, and proceeds to light it and take a few draws in, slowly puffing out some smoke. "As the night is late, feel free to stay here tonight. Plenty of room here, and the beds are quite comfortable. But let's talk about the creature. And he pauses for a few moments and continues. "The creature that has been troubling us Bucklanders for a night or so. Not much happens around here outside the occasional dwarf having a few too many drinks while passing through, but a beast from the old forest? Been years since trouble from the old forest has haunted us Bucklanders. Hate to think that everyone will do if we don't get this under control and solved right now." Gorboduc puffs on his pipe some more. "Now, I do find it hard to believe what's troubling us is also troubling what did you say before? Woodhall and the farms in the Marish? Can't see the beast crossing the Brandywine, unless via the bridge. But I haven't heard anything further up north complaining of missing livestock. But I have heard a few farms in Newbury, and just last night Rollo Boffin sounded the alarm, claiming he saw the very beast on the edge of his property in Crick Hollow. Either way, just a matter of time. A hobbit, one of our tweens, or worse, our young children get attacked by this thing. Barrelak leans in. Well, there's more than just one. Sounds like there's two. Folco here just fell one of these beasts on the other side of the ferry. Great shot, I might add. But the beast, no creature of Harrow, just a wolf. I'm sure we can take care of this, no question. Folco, letting out a few quick coughs. Well, I got real lucky with that shot, but Barrelak is right. Looks to be just a wolf that charged me at the ferry, but appears not to be alone. As we were crossing the Brandywine, we looked back to see another wolf, same size, and with the same bright red eyes, sniff around the other body and then bolted northwards along the banks of the river. Gorbadoc took in a deep breath, then let out a measured sigh. I may be the Master of Buckland, but I have no right to tell anyone what to do. That being said, if you're already sticking your nose into this matter, by all means go right ahead. But be careful, there's something foul about these creatures. With that, Gorbadoc bids them a good night, and retires down one of the many halls of Brandy Hall. Folco and Barrelak take no time to retreat into their assigned rooms and rest for the night. Folco awakes by a tapping outside of his room door. Opening the door, after quickly getting dressed, Folco is greeted by a well-dressed hobbit. Ah, you must be Folco. I've awoken your companion Barrelak, and he's to meet us in the parlor. My name is Saradas Brandybuck, and being unfortunate news of another attack over the night. Whispering quietly to Folco, quickly leading him to the parlor of Brandy Hall. Let's not bother father with this. I believe the stress will get to him otherwise. Entering their parlor, Folco sees Barrelak sitting down with another hobbit, a one Rollo Boffin, as they are in deep discussion. Ah, Folco, come here. We've got some interesting info from old Rollo here about the other beast. Sit, take a listen. Barrelak waves Folco over.
Aye, well, I was saying, Rollo, seemingly losing his train of thought. Well, the wolf, nay, beast, black as night the fur was, smelled of burnt hair, those eyes red as the flame of the fire over there, stalked back and forth near the edge of my property. Oh, it was hungry, all right, if not plain rabbit for my flesh. I panicked and fled, running as fast as my feet could go here to Brandy Hall. Please, would you rid of this plague? Nothing good will come of it. Something bad, if nothing is done.
A cough is heard behind the gathering party, and Gorbadoc is in the parlor doorway. Rollo is right. Something must be done. It seems you, Folco, and you, Barrelak, have been tracking this beast, or the pair, for some time. I need to keep my watchmen on patrol here, but if you wouldn't mind investigating Rollo's farm in Crick Hollow, may lead to the whereabouts of this beast. Barrelak stands up and looks to Gorbadoc. Well, I didn't come here to be pampered in these halls. There's a wolf to be called, and would like to get back to the Woody Hall, seeing that is done. Folco stood and nodded in agreement. After a quick breakfast, and just as the sun rises over the old forest to the east, Folco and Barrelak, guided by Rollo, head to his property in Crick Hollow. Folco taking the barest of his supplies, leaving Billy at Brandy Hall. Billy, appearing none to be concerned, enjoying the nice grasses that grew alongside the hill.